Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellen and in this video I'm going to be doing the BTS Book Tag. I saw one of my really good booktube friends, V from the Sassy Library Fox, do this tag. I will leave her channel down below and I thought that it was really fun. So I used to not be an ARMY, like the fan group for BTS, until very recently. Just a really quick story on how I became a fan of BTS. Just this last Christmas, my two older nieces came over for Christmas and they were asking me if I've listened to BTS, and I told them no, I've heard of them, never listened to any of their stuff. And they were like, what? How can you not have heard of BTS? And so they started playing their favorite songs by them and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. Like, I just always had a preconception on like what K-pop really was, and I just kind of thought, it's not really my thing without even really trying it. Turns out they have really good music and it was very catchy. I really like really catchy, good beats kind of songs. And so Mic Drop and Idol instantly became my two new favorite songs. And that is how I became an ARMY. So I think that's really fun. So it's been fun talking to V about them and just learning more about them. It's just been a fun thing for her and I. V and I have been discussing the K-pop group and then just talking about our favorite songs and stuff like that. So just wanted to give that little story to you guys. And before I get into the tag questions, I just wanted to say down below, I'm going to be listing my new Instagram account for this channel. I did have a Bookstagram account before, but I just felt it wasn't really authentic to me. I was too easily influenced by like what other people were doing and making their posts so pretty and all that. And I'll be honest, I don't have the time to take pretty pictures of my books. And even if I did have the time, that actually doesn't spark joy in my own life. And I decided that Instagram account is going to be a mixture of book-related topics and my other hobbies, such as traveling and also cooking or baking. So that is something that I really like to do. I'm really not doing much traveling now for kind of obvious reasons, but I will be posting that kind of stuff when I'm able to. And I've been really getting into cooking and baking. It's another joy of mine that I spend time on when I don't really feel like reading. So I would love it if you would check out my new Instagram account down below so you can see little bits of my personal life in there. Nothing too personal. My husband or daughter are not on that account, but just little stuff that you can get to know about me if you're interested. So now for the questions. I have my iPad here with the questions. I'm just taking it off of V's video. Thank you, V. The first prompt is DNA. Name a book that started your love for reading. And that has to be Nancy Drew. I just love Nancy Drew ever since I was young. My dad bought me all the book series. And I say dad because my dad also is an avid reader. And because he was an avid reader, he fully supported all the books that I really wanted to read. And we would often do book shopping together, and one of the book series that he would often get me is Nancy Drew. And I remember at the time, Costco was selling the like old style classic Nancy Drew books in these bundle packs. And whenever my dad would see a bundle pack that had a lot of books I didn't have yet, he would buy it. And it was just really good memories are associated with Nancy Drew, and that really started my love for reading. Mic Drop. Oh, love Mic Drop. A popular book that deserves the hype. So for this one, I have to say City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I only read this first one. I really need to get to the second and third ones. This book was just amazing. The things that I love about fantasy were all in this book. I really loved like a strong female character, but she's not super dumb. That gets kind of annoying, but no, Nari was a really good character. I also loved some of the other perspectives like Dara and Ali, is that was the other guy's name? But I just loved learning about Jinn and magic and learning about this other fictional city. And you also get to learn more about family ties, and there's some mystery kind of involved and political struggle, political intrigue. I just thought it was really fascinating, and there was all sorts of different aspects woven into this book. And it was just beautiful, and I can't wait to continue reading this. I really feel like this book is definitely worth the hype. Next prompt is Fake Love, a book or character you used to love but now dislike. So for this, I'm kind of embarrassed to even admit this, but I used to actually like Tamlin in the beginning of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, I know he was kind of a jerk and blah, 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 but I really thought that this book series was going to continue on like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I know this first book is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling type of story. And so I really thought Tamlin was going to be like the end game. And I thought, okay, they have like this romance going on and all this kind of stuff. But then you kind of find out later on towards the end of this book and the beginning of the second book, a lot of things have changed and Tamlin's actions just really aren't great and stuff like that. And you start to realize like maybe he's not as great as you initially thought. And that is definitely the case for me. I thought like he was actually going to end up being a better character than he actually ended up being. So that was kind of disappointing. So my answer for this prompt is Tamlin from A Court of Thorns and Roses. Let Go, a book or series you were sad to see end. And this one is a recent one for me. I haven't 100% finished the third book, but I'm like halfway through. I'm halfway through the third book and I'm really sad about it, but it's the Deanna Madden series by A.R. Torr. The first book is The Girl in 6E. I'm really sad about this, you guys. Like, this book is very, very messed up, but in the best way possible. Like, Deanna, her cam girl name is Jessica Riley, but her real name is Deanna Madden. She is 22 years old and she is a cam girl. So she goes on video and performs sexual acts in front of the camera to earn money. And she makes really, really good money doing this. She wanted a job that she could live off of without ever leaving her apartment. And that is because she has killer tendencies. She fantasizes about murdering people and such. So she sequestered herself into her apartment for 3 years and she was able to support herself by being a cam girl. And you end up finding out that maybe her weird and kind of scary tendencies actually might be kind of useful in some cases. Like this first book, she gains a client that kind of has disturbing behaviors and she kind of takes matters into her own hands. And that is all I'm going to really say about this. But I just love Deanna as a character. She's obviously a very, very, very flawed individual, not quite right in the brain, and she knows it. That's kind of what makes her appealing, is that she fully knows what she's capable of. She fully understands that there's a lot of things wrong with her, and she knows why she is the way she is. And it's kind of refreshing. It's not like you're not doing a ton of soul searching. You're just getting more backstory on who she is, why she is the way she is, and just an insight into her mind and how she thinks. And I just think it's fascinating, and I'm really sad that this series is going to end for me soon. Serendipity, a book or character that makes you feel warm or happy. So I went with book for this one, and that is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. Like, I buddy read this with Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative and a bunch of other people. A lot of people read this already, but they were rereading it in anticipation for when the second book came out. And you guys, this book has the best vibes. It's like Roman-esque inspired fantasy. There's like some sexiness involved without it being like really smutty or sexy at all. It's just, the atmosphere is just very, very sexy and it's alluring. And the characters are very well developed. There's so many different side characters. There's so many different houses and politics, and there's a little bit of magic involved. And it is just so beautiful. Like, this duo team of authors really did a great job with this book. And the second book, usually the second books suffer from second book syndrome, but the second book didn't. It was just even more amazing, and there were a lot of truth bombs that were dropped in the second book that I thought we wouldn't even get until the third. So now I'm wondering what we're gonna get in the third book, you know? But this book, amazing. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do, because you won't regret it. I really don't think so. Okay, Euphoria. A book that makes you feel nostalgic. And for this one, I chose a YA book. And it is Bloomability by, who is this? Sharon Creech. This book, I like never ever have heard anyone talk about this book. She's the same author who wrote Walk Two Moons. And at least in my elementary school, we read that book all together in class. And I loved that book. Very deep, like she writes really deep YA stories that are relatable yet kind of heavy. And in Bloomability, we follow this girl named Domenica Santolina Dune. She goes by Dinny. And she lives a very eccentric lifestyle. Her dad is a jack of all trades type of person, and they often move around when her dad loses job or gets bored, and then they just end up packing all their belongings and going somewhere else for whatever new adventure her dad is into. But finally, well, not finally, but eventually Dinny's aunt and uncle on her mother's side come in, and I guess her uncle got this job as a headmaster in this private school in Switzerland, and they wanted Dinny to go with them to that school. And without her having any say, they sweep her up and take her to Switzerland to this really amazing private school. And she really learns a lot about herself. She gains a lot of clarity about her family, and she meets a ton of people from all over the world, like from Japan and Spain and even other parts of America. And she makes really good friends and has all sorts of experiences. And this book, like I just skim read this like not too long ago, and it just brought back all the nostalgic vibes. I just really love this book. And it's short, so if you're really wanting to read a short but beautiful YA book, I highly recommend Bloomability. It is just, it's wholesome and it just makes you feel good, and I feel like adults can appreciate this book. You don't have to be like 12 or 13 to appreciate what's in here. Okay, the next one is Run, your favorite coming of age novel. So for coming of age, I chose North of Beautiful by Justina Chen Headley, I believe is how you say her name. This book is kind of like growing up essentially, and her name is Tara, and she has a port wine stain on one of her cheeks. She's very self-conscious about it. She wears tons of makeup and foundation to hide this fact, and it's like the biggest insecurity. She is insecure to the point where she exercises religiously every single day, trying to make sure every other physical part of her is as perfect as it can be to make up for this very obvious flaw that she has. And the very beginning of this book, she describes how from the back you would think that she was like this beautiful, gorgeous woman, but then when you come to her at face, you know, seeing her face, like you realize that she has this obvious flaw. And this book, it's more than just coming of age. It's also about accepting yourself. There is trigger warnings for parental abuse in terms of like emotional, verbal abuse in this. So that is a trigger, but she overcomes a lot, and she becomes close with her mom in this despite their struggles. And she meets this amazing character named Jacob, who teaches her how to just appreciate who she is and to not try to conform to what other people want her to be. And this is like the perfect coming of age novel if you're just a little bit insecure about yourself and you're easily influenced by other people, and you're just, you know, you want what you want, but all your fear and other people are holding you back. This book is perfect for that, and I read this when I was 18 and I really loved it. And yeah, this is my coming of age novel recommendation. Okay, I Need You, a book on your TBR you're dying to read. So right now, that is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I really do like Sarah J. Maas. I know that she kind of has like a reputation and smutty and blah, blah, blah. I like that kind of stuff, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I got this as like an early anniversary gift. My husband and I just celebrated our 3rd year marriage anniversary, and I received this book, and I am so excited to dive into it. I am currently in the middle of the 3rd Deanna Madden series that I mentioned earlier, and I'm also reading the Atlas 6, which I have right here. I'm currently in the middle of this as well. But when the mood strikes, I am just dying to read this. But again, my fantasy dry spell is still occurring. I mean, you can kind of argue that it's not, because the Atlas 6 does have some like magical realism type stuff. It's like a dark academia book, but it's not like full-on fantasy. So my hope is that this will lead me to this and Winds of Strife and the other fantasy books I really want to read. So this is on my TBR. I am really excited to get to this, but it is a wee bit intimidating. You know, look how thick that is. Okay. Epiphany. Name a book that made you realize something major about yourself. And for this, I chose pretty much my favorite book of all time, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So something that I learned about myself, especially from reading this book, is that when I was younger, I was really easy to judge and criticize other people. And that is not something that I'm very proud of. I think it kind of stemmed from the fact that I often felt that people were very critical and judgmental of me, and it made me judgmental and critical in return. I grew up as the only like Japanese person in my town. I grew up in a very small, predominantly white town with just a handful of Asians and African American and Latino people. It was not very diverse. I was definitely the only hafu that was there. And I just kind of felt like I had these unrealistic expectations set on me, and I really do feel like I was judged often by peers and even some of the staff at my schools. And it just made me, like, I think as a defense mechanism, I really was overly critical of other people. That's not something I am proud to admit, but I will be honest about it. And it's something that I've really, really improved on over the years, is to, and especially since I gained more security in myself and I realized, you know, you can't help where you grew up, and some people don't know how to act around certain types of people. Not like I'm trying to deflect blame off of them, but, you know, some people are more small-minded, and that's not my problem, and I shouldn't treat others that way just because I was treated like that. You know, treat others the way you want to be treated, right? So when I was, like, in my teens, I read this for the first time, and I really realized, like, this flaw in myself, like, kind of like Mr. Darcy. That's something I'm proud to admit that I overcame. I mean, I'm sure we all have our own little quirks and judgments that, you know, happen as flawed human beings. But that is something that I realized about myself, is because I was hurt so often by other people, by their judgments and criticisms, it made me more likely to become like that towards others. And I didn't want to be like that anymore. And this book really helped me see that. I was like, wow, Mr. Darcy. And then, wait a minute, like, maybe I'm kind of doing the same thing. So I really love this book. It's amazing. 21st Century Girl. What bookish tropes concerning women would you like to change to improve female representation in literature? The one that instantly comes to mind is similar to V's answer, if you watch her video, which I highly recommend that you do, is like this strong girl, but she is dumb at the same time. Like, she's strong, she could take care of herself, but then, like, when there's any kind of adversity where decisions have to be made, she, like, can't make those decisions by herself, or she relies on somebody else to do what needs to be done, but only at the last minute she can do that. And the other thing is the femme fatale trope. Like, if there's some woman she's sexy and she always gets what she wants and she just knows exactly how men tick and how to get what she wants and manipulate people, I don't think that's a really good, like, female representation either. And I am seeing that in this book. If you've read this, you know what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, I am loving the Atlas 6 so far, just not loving that character. And don't get me wrong, I do realize that there's all sorts of people in the world, some good, some not good, but I just don't think showing women who are strong but they can't make their own decisions, there's a reason why a lot of women aren't in leadership roles yet, and it's because women have to overcome so many barriers to even get to the point where they could be a CEO or a CFO or anyone who is in a leadership position. You can tell that not a lot of women are in leadership positions. Women are capable of making their own decisions, and they don't have to be tough in order to be strong, you know, like, so I don't like that. And as for the femme fatale stuff, sure, there's some women who like to use their looks and just get whatever they want and, you know, do all that, and they end up being really conniving, manipulative. I know that there's men and women out there like that, but to have this portrayed often makes it feel like women can't be trusted. We're all manipulative B-words, and we're just not trustworthy, and we always want something, or things are never good enough for us. We're always trying to achieve something higher, or we always want something from somebody. I don't think that is a good portrayal of women at all. So I really don't like characters like that. Like, unless they have a reason for being like that, but they would have to be written very, very well. Even so, still don't like it. Don't like characters like that. I don't think it does women any favors. Save me. What fictional character would you bring back to life? Oh. What character would you bring back to life? If you've read this book and you were torn up about a person who is no longer around, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I can't say that person's name because it is a spoiler, but if you know, you know. Someone in here, it was devastating, and I'm still not over it. Best of me. What story will always stick with you? And for that, I chose Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. This is another one of my top books that I really enjoy and love. Probably my top 10 favorites books. And I've only read this once. I need to read it again. But this book, really short snippet, is there's an ad in the newspaper and a man sees the ad, and all it says is a teacher is seeking a student. And that was intriguing for him. So he goes to the location that the newspaper said to go to, and there he finds a gorilla. And you're probably wondering, why is there a gorilla there? Turns out the gorilla can talk, and he is explaining how humans have impacted nature and impacted the world, how our minds differ from all the other animals in the animal kingdom. And on the back, it says, Daniel Quinn parses humanity's origins and its relationship with nature in search of an answer to this challenging question. How can we save the world from ourselves? This book was amazing. I know I've said this for a lot of these books, but this one, you just have to read it, because no matter what I say or how I describe it, it's just not going to be enough. You just have to read it and try it for yourself. And again, I don't think you'll regret it. I read this book when I was finally getting back into reading again after being in college and just reading boring textbooks, and this just really blew my mind, and it's worth reading. And the last question is, blood, sweat, and tears, name a book you struggled to get through. And this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Like, don't get me wrong, it's written beautifully and all that, and I guess, like, I did make it through relatively quickly, but it was hard to just pick back up again. Like, once I was actually reading it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm reading it, like, I'm getting through it, but, like, it didn't make me want to pick it back up again. I just thought it was a little pretentious, and some of it just, I almost feel like she wanted to be, like, way too whimsical and, like, fluffy, and just, I don't know, it was just too flowery, and it's, like, part of me wanted to just be like, can you get to the point? Like, does everything, it was just, instead of point A to point B, you just felt like you're just doing all sorts of loops and whatever just to get to the end, and I'm just like, a little bit is fine, but it was just like, was that all necessary, really? Like, man, this is like a 3-star, like, it was all right, but, like, it wasn't anything super special to me. Like, I think the writing is beautiful in itself. I just kind of felt like it wasn't the best book for me. And I did get The Starless Sea also by this author, and I tried reading it, and I'm gonna unhaul it. Like, I'm not saying she's a bad author, I just don't think she's for me. Like, sure, I like some nice writing every now and again, but it doesn't have to be like this level. And the ending, I'm just like, meh. So this was kind of a struggle. So that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And let me know down below, do you have a favorite BTS character? Do you even like BTS? Have you listened to BTS? And I'm not gonna lie, I haven't listened to a lot of these songs that these prompts are named after. Like 21st Century Girl, like, is that a song? I haven't listened to it. I'm sorry, V. I'm not full army yet, but I'm getting there. You know, I just have to slowly make my way through all their music. But let me know if you have a favorite BTS member, which is your favorite song by BTS, and also have you read any of the books that I mentioned? Please let me know down below. I would really appreciate it. I'm gonna try to post once a week from now on, and we shall see how that goes. But again, all my social media will be linked down below, and give me a follow. I'd love to have you around. And until next time, guys, bye.